What's up guys, Asian here again with another build video. This time we're going to be going over the magicka sorcerer and whether or not an Inferno staff or a lightning staff is best in slot for your front bar. Now this is a question that I've seen floated around on Reddit a couple of times, and there's kind of two schools of thought here. There's a kind of a school of thought that Inferno is better because it gives you better single target damage on your spammable and crystal frags and your curse. And there's a school of thought that Lightning Staff is better because you'll get more damage with your light attacks because your light attacks will not all be doing shock damage. So kind of where this whole question stems from is basically it boils down to two passives. So the first passive is going to be Energized, which increases your physical and shock damage by 5%. Your light attacks, if you have a lightning staff on your front bar, will all be shock damage. So you're getting 5% extra damage from your light attacks on your front bar. The other passive that's kind of in the middle of all this is Ancient Knowledge. So when you have Destruction Staff ability slotted, your Inferno Staff will increase your damage done with your single target abilities by 8%, and Lightning Staff will increase your damage done with Area of Effect abilities by 8%. Now, for most builds, most Sorc builds out there, at least those that are using Crushing Shock as a spammable, all of your abilities on your front bar are basically single target abilities. Crystal Frags is a single target, Crushing Shock is a single target, Haunting Curse or Daedric Prey is also single target, and your Shooting Star is the single target effect as well. At least the initial hit is a single target effect. If you're running a pet build, then your pet pulse is considered an area of effect, so that is not infected while you're on your front bar. But if your pet is still pulsing while it's on the back bar, then it will get that damage increase from Ancient Knowledge. So that's kind of where that school of thought comes from. It also comes from the fact that in order to get the fire proc of the Lambris to happen, you need to do fire damage. And so if you're using a lightning staff as your front bar, your only source of fire damage is going to be burning and the flame damage component of Crushing Shock or Force Pulse. So at least with the Inferno Staff front bar, you have an extra source of fire damage to increase your chances of getting that Lambris proc, because without that fire Lambris proc, other monster helms are probably going to start out parsing it. Things like Scoria and Narayanets start becoming a lot more favorable compared to Lambris if you're not getting enough fire procs on a Sorc. So that's kind of what we're going to explore today. I've heard that somebody recommend on Reddit that Lightning Staff is best for a pet build and a Inferno Staff is best for a non-pet build, and that to me sounds a little bit fishy, so we're just kind of going to explore all of the different possibilities today. So we're going to be doing four parses today. We're going to be doing non-pet and pet builds with Inferno and Lightning Staff each. So that's 4 parses in total, and we're going to compare all 4 of them at the end of this video. The disclaimer that I always have is that this is just a single parse across all these different possible combinations. So we're not going to be able to make any definitive conclusions today. The only thing we're really going to be able to do is kind of look at trends, see if there's anything that stands out that differs between any of the 4 different combinations that we're doing today, and just kind of see if our gut instincts are kind of on the right track or not. I'm gonna go out and collect a lot more data, and I'm gonna follow up with another video once I collect all this data to kind of give you guys a more solid recommendation and a more solid finding than what we're gonna be doing today. Today is just kind of an exploratory video. So for these tests, we're basically going to maintain everything is going to be the exact same thing, except for the front bar. We're going to be either using a Lightning Staff or an Inferno Staff. Same trait infused with the same enchant, shock damage enchant, so everything else is going to remain the same. We are using a Moondancer front bar instead of an Asylum Staff front bar, and that's just because due to natural variations in our rotation, we don't want the Asylum Staff proc to kind of mess up our numbers. I don't think it would be that big of a deal, but I still want to eliminate as much variation as possible. So we're sticking with a Moondancer as our front bar just because it provides a much more consistent basis, so we're not necessarily going to be relying on the Asylum Staff procs to be exactly the same between all 4 parses. Other than that, everything else is going to be the same. Going to be using Julie for our non-pet and Necro for our pet. and Lambris is going to be our monster set of choice. Back bar is going to remain the same between all 4 parses. It's going to be a sharpened lightning staff with the weapon damage enchant. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started with our parse. I'm going to need to get some food out of the bank first. Alright, and here we go. That was a bit of a bad parse, but we'll stick with it. Have to build an ultimate between each parse. And so for now, this next parse we're going to be doing Inferno Staff. Dancer Inferno. Come on. Alright, there we go. So we're going to have a Moondancer Inferno Staff on our front bar. This is the non-pet build. Really unlucky with our crystal frags procs. There. Alright, so that was our Inferno Staff proc, and now we're going to go ahead and swap to a pet build. Grow. Same thing, get our ultimate back up. Now wait for... I don't want to be out of combat before I summon my pet. There we go. Alright, so that was the pet build with the lightning staff. Swap over to or Inferno staff. Swap over to a lightning staff, de-summon our pet while we build ultimate. So now we'll see whether there's any truth behind the statement that a lightning staff is better on a pet build and an Inferno staff is better on a non-pet build. My gut is telling me that it's not really founded on any sort of basis, mathematical basis, but I could be wrong, and intuition is not the only thing that matters in this game. Oh, lovely, that lag. Just had a ping spike of about 400 there. Alright, so those are our 4 parses, and let's go take a look at what Combat Metrics has to say. Alright, so this is our Lightning Staff pet build. We hit about 35k. So this is the Inferno Staff pet build. We hit 34.9k, only a 100 DPS difference. That is not really enough for me to say that Lightning Staff is better necessarily than an Inferno Staff. 100% a 100 DPS difference. If you go ahead, let me just pull up my calculator real quick. Hop over to that one. Alright, so 100 DPS difference, so we had 3,500. Oh, 3,500, 100 minus 34,900 divided by our initial. Oh, and I need to multiply that by 100. So that's only a less than a quarter, or I guess less than a third percentage difference in DPS. That's well within the margin of error. So we're going to need to collect a lot more data in order to make a determination on pet build whether Inferno or Lightning is better. But for right now, it seems like it doesn't really matter for a pet build. Back to combat metrics again. So this was our Inferno Staff non-pet build. We hit 34k. This is our Lightning Staff non-pet build. We hit 32.3k. Now that is a 1.7k difference. So let's go back to our calculator real quick and try to figure out just how much of an increase that is. So we hit 3,400. We did 32.3 divided by 32.3 times 100. So that's a 5.5% increase in DPS. Now it could be that our Lightning Staff Parse was off by a little bit. Maybe the rotation was off, maybe something was happening that wasn't giving me quite as high of a number, and I know that is very, very possible because I have hit 35k with a non-pet build with a infused lightning front bar. So I will need to collect more data just to kind of get an idea of whether this was a fluke or if this is indicative of a trend. But from my own parses and from my own experience, that 32k parse is on the low end for a non-pet build. That's kind of not typical. That's not my average parse. So I would throw some caution out there. I would say that Inferno looks like it might be better, but like I said earlier in the video, I'd have to collect more data points in order to make a more definitive conclusion. So that's it for this video. So what we found out today is that it is a lot trickier to parse things out. There was a lot of variation, particularly with the non-pet build. The Lightning Staff parse you can see here is just not that great. So I'm going to need to collect a lot more data points and then come back to it, get an average, and figure things out from there. But for right now, what we can say is it's inconclusive right now. Inferno or Lightning Staff doesn't really matter. At least it seems like it doesn't matter for a pet build. And on a non-pet build, just because I know I can pull about 34-35k on a Lightning Staff non-pet, I would say the same thing for a non-pet build. Inferno or Lightning doesn't seem to matter right now. So that's it for this video. Hope you found this informative, and I'll see you guys in the next dungeon.